Yes, I did. I did a lot of drama at secondary school. I could be found in the drama studio. There was something about that space, and it was in the corner of the school, and it was away from all the noise and everything else. And I think I spent far too many lunchtimes and after schools in the drama studio. So yeah, if anybody needed to find me at secondary school, it was in the drama studio. I think like it was always there as a kid. I grew up with a family of storytellers, and everybody always dressed up and pretended to be other people and told jokes. And there was something about, being a storyteller was a part of like being a member of the family. So my dad would sometimes just walk down the stairs, and he'd have had an idea up in the room, and he'd have got into, a fancy house coat and a wig, and he'd come down and kind of do his Les Dawson sketch, which we all just found absolutely hilarious. And then we'd all join in, and yeah. I think I gave my dad a few notes on his Les Dawson, definitely. I enjoyed being the receiver of a story. I enjoyed watching people create. It was the thing I took most pleasure in was, watching my dad have the idea to dress up or tell a story or tell a joke. I liked seeing him have that first idea. And so I guess it was the process that I was most interested in, and like the rehearsal of it that I got most excitement out of.
Can you?
I think, yes, the first play I was in at school was The Nativity. Every year we'd put on a nativity at school. That was more primary school. I never got to play Mary. I was always an angel. I think at church I finally got to play Mary, which felt like a massive achievement. And then I think as I kind of got into secondary school, started kind of being introduced to other plays, like My Mother Said I Never Should. I remember doing that. I had Top Girls. Oh gosh, I can't remember. I think it was. I think I was directing it more than I was in it, but I didn't know that there was such thing as a director. I think I started properly thinking about directing in sixth form college, and as I started to read more about theatre and discover other forms of theatre making from around the world, I became much more interested in how it was made. And again, it was being in the rehearsal room that was the big thing for me. I think, to be honest, I was, even at 18, I still thought I wanted to be an actor, because I think when you're interested in drama and theatre, you only really see the actors. And so immediately you think, great, well, that means I want to be one of them. And it probably took me until I was about 19 to properly figure out that it was directing that I was actually interested in and better at. So at sixth form college, I did AS levels in my first year, and I did theatre studies, English literature, sociology, and philosophy.
Wow.
And then in my third year, I dropped philosophy. So my A levels are in sociology, theatre studies, and English literature. It was starting to become clearer, but I still thought I wanted to be an actor. And the first thing I did was I turned 18 and I moved to London, because that's what I thought every actor should do and does do. And I'd probably put very little thought into the reality of it. And I actually went to Goldsmiths University to start a degree in theatre studies, thinking that would give me that kind of opening into acting. And actually, I'm very grateful for the time I spent at Goldsmiths. I only did 1 term there because it was really that term where I realised that directing was the thing I really wanted to do, and I needed to go and do a course that allowed me to fully focus on that as a craft. Yeah, I think it was the first time I'd really heard the word director, and it was you know, a lot of the tutors talked about directing as an actual thing, as a career, as a job, and I started doing a lot of it. And so whenever we had a choice about what discipline would you like to be involved in this particular production, it was always directing that I chose. And I directed a version of Kafka's Metamorphosis, and it was in a theatre, and it was with a lighting designer and a sound designer and a stage manager, as well as the actors. And it was just the best feeling I'd ever had in my life. I think I had some fantastic drama teachers who, I don't know, I think the relationship I had with my drama teachers always felt more personal than my relationship with other teachers in other subjects. And I think I responded really well to that. And they would talk to me on a level, and we talk about other things, you know, apart from just grades or, you know, tics or, you know, what's right or wrong. We'd talk about, they seemed genuinely interested in talking about life and ideas, and I just felt like I could have more fun and be myself more around my drama teachers, from secondary school all the way to studying at Rose Bruford, where I did a BA in theatre directing. That decision came later. I went back to Huddersfield, and I got a normal job. I worked behind a bar, and I ended up managing a bar in Huddersfield. And I think I was so keen at 18 to get out of the place I was from and to enter the big city, and it actually didn't do me very much good. And I felt quite lost in London, and so it felt really important for me to go back home and to reconnect with my roots and my community there, and fall back in love with where I was from, and actually get out of that thing that you often feel at, you know, at 18, 19, which is that you have to make decisions, and you have to, you know, you have to go straight into university or higher education, and get your qualifications and then get a job. And I actually just enjoyed going back home and running a bar. It was a cafe bar, and then on an evening it opened up later into the night, and I managed a you know, a team of staff there, and got to know the regulars, and I guess it felt a bit like directing. I think I did intend to come back to London. I think I knew it was there at the back of my head all the time, but I needed to. I think I needed to find the confidence to do it again, and I was quite happy just waiting and allowing for that to happen, kind of just organically and naturally. And then I remember literally waking up one morning and just saying out loud, I need to go back to directing. I'm ready now. Whatever I was going through, whatever I was struggling with in terms of my identity and my place in the world, I'm now ready to take that leap and go back and properly train to be a director.
And what?
At the time, there were very few 3-year BAs in theatre directing. There were just a handful in the country. There are even less now. And so I applied because it was one of the few courses available. And then when I got there, it was quite a tough selection process. And I arrived, and there was something about just walking into a building that is exclusively about theatre. And it was like walking into heaven. Every single person, it's the first time I'd been in a space where every single person in it was there to make theatre. And it felt like coming home. It felt like belonging. And one of the tasks I was set as part of the selection process was a short piece of text. And I worked with 2 actors in a room. I had an hour to direct them, and I think we rehearsed for about 3 hours. In the end, we just couldn't stop, and I just knew when I left that room that that's what I needed to do for the rest of my life. Yes, it really did. I think often people think of directing as, being the loudest person in the room, or having the best ideas in the room, or telling people what to do. And committing 3 years of my life to really exploring the craft of directing taught me that there are many different forms of leadership, and that often the best work can come out of a provocation in the room, or asking questions of actors. I think the big thing that studying at Rose Bruford taught me was that if you expect an actor to do something, you have to be willing to do it yourself. And we did a lot of acting for each other on the course. And so we learnt what it felt like to be asked to roll around on the floor, or scream out loud, or we do things like clowning exercises, animal studies, mask work. We did a lot of the training that the actors were being asked to do, and that completely transformed the way I saw directing, because it had to be about understanding what you're asking somebody else to do. Yeah, it did. I was always drawn to a lot of European styles of directing, and the practitioners that I read and connected with the most were not British directors. They were directors from all around the world, and the word practitioner started to come up a lot as opposed to director. And I guess a practitioner is somebody who develops a process where you might rehearse for a bit longer, or it feels a bit more experimental. And often it's more devised based than it might be text based. And I really connected with that. And it started to, sometimes you can go down that road too far of process, and sometimes you can forget your audience. And I think at Rose Bruford, I probably went way far down the line of process and got a bit too addicted to the rehearsal room. And then it was actually leaving Rose Bruford and starting to work professionally where I began to remember my audience again. And so I think now my style is a mix of those two things. It's a mix of absolutely exploring theatre craft, but also remembering that you've got to put on a play in front of an audience who are paying money to come and see it. What I feel very lucky about is the work ethic that my parents and my upbringing instilled in me. So my first job was as a paper girl when I was 11 years old, and I've not actually been out of work since then. So I've always found ways to make money. I think the fear when I graduated was how am I going to make money and continue to live in London? And And so I went back to my managing bars and working as an usher in theatres and working on receptions, and I knew that I needed to do lots of other types of work to make money before I could ever get to a point where I was making enough money to support myself as a director. But I kind of liked that as well. I didn't resent that. It felt real. It's part of the world. You've got to. It's about graft. I think leaving drama school and thinking that you're going to go straight into a career in theatre is very dangerous. Yeah, I was directing as many scratch productions as I could, a lot of work on the fringe. I was not getting paid to direct theatre. And so it was really, really hard work, but I had a work ethic that helped me through. I think you need to find somewhere to make mistakes as a director, as a young director. I think when you're out in the industry, it's quite exposing, and if you make a mistake, the whole world sees it. And so I know that what Rose Bruford did for me is it gave me an environment where I could take risks, where I could experiment, where I could fall over and bruise and then get back up again and try it again. And so I would just say to anybody interested in directing, go and find a space where you can mess up and test yourself. And that needs to be a safe space and one where you're around people who you trust to pick you back up again. But it's not magic. I think a lot of people look at directing and think, a lot of people look at directors and think we've got like a magic wand, or that we're born with some skill or talent to be able to do it. But we don't. It's graft and it's hard work, and it takes a long time. But it's the best feeling in the world to be in a rehearsal room, and when it does work, it's the community of theatre makers, and that you're the person who's guiding them and helping a company of actors and creatives achieve something that then changes the world and has an effect on an audience member is amazing. But go and put the hard work in. I think the director needs to know the play inside out, back to front, upside down, every which way, and to know it inside of themselves before they get into a rehearsal room. And the reason why I say that is because when you're then in a rehearsal room as a director in front of a room of actors, you can't have your head in a book. You can't get all of your information from looking down at your notes or what's on a piece of paper. You have to be able to look up and be open and engage with the space and with the new people in the room. So I would say that preparation is just about reading the play as many times as possible and surrounding yourself with your research. So when I'm preparing to direct a play, in my study area at home, I've created a playlist of music that connects me to the play. I've got books and films and images all around the space, and I've put images up all around and things that inspire me, and I try to get all of that inside of me so that when I'm in rehearsals, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just able to be present. I think actors need to feel like they're being listened to by a director and that they are respected as artists in their own right. I think actors need to feel like they're not puppets being placed around the space and being told where to move when. I think they need to feel like they can trust the director to be the bravest, boldest, most creative version of themselves. Yes, definitely. And I never intended it to, and I've always been a bit afraid of being able to see any of my work and for somebody to say, "Oh, that's a Kimberley Sykes production," because it feels like maybe I've had too much. I don't want to see my fingerprints on my work. I want to be able to see the play and the actors and the audience in the work. But so I've always been a bit afraid of that. And the minute you've got your style and your process and somebody else can look at it and say that's a Kim Sykes production, I kind of feel a bit like that's when you should give it up, really. What's the point, from there on in? So I'm enjoying still discovering what my style is, but at the same time, I can look at my work and see tropes or images or ideas that when I step back and have a look at it all as a collective, I can see the pattern emerging.